So Thomas was one of the people that asked me about a comparison between these two guitars. So you saw me playing basically similar stuff on each. I started on the 4th position for the rhythm part, then switched to the 2nd position, I think, on both guitars. Then for the main kind of lead part, I was flicking to the bridge. Sorry, the main rhythm part, as in like the distorted part. And then for the lead tones, I was switching between the neck pickup and the bridge pickup. I think the Ibanez has some hotter pickups in general, which would sort of make a bit of sense. The Sires are a little bit tamer, looking at the waveform. Just want to check how things stayed in tune after I give it a bit of kind of whammy bashing. So the Ibanez has come back considerably sharp, so I think the nut could do with a little bit of lubrication, essentially. So in terms of stability and tuning stability, which probably is one of the things that you're looking for on a guitar if you're really wanting to be able to gig it or whatever, I feel like the Ibanez comes up short once you start to engage the whammy bar. I'll just check what the Sire is doing. So I've not tuned this one since I did that whammy abuse. So same kind of idea. Plastic. That feels like that's considerably more. Yeah, so that's kept its tune quite a lot better than the Ibanez, although it's still a bit sharp compared to where it would have been. But you know. I'd say the Sire has a more kind of premium feeling neck. You've got the rolled fretboard at edges. One of the nicest features of this guitar, I think, is the neck. I do like the Ibanez AZ-ES as well. I just say this feels like a slightly more expensive neck, whatever that means. You know, rolled fingerboard edges does have a feel if you've ever tried a guitar with that. I think looks-wise, if looks matter to you, then you know they do look substantially different to one another. Personally, I really do like the aesthetics of the Ibanez AZ or AZ-ES in particular. So both of them, with more serious trem abuse, I think will start to need some attention at the nut. This one does have locking tuners, one of the sort of upgrades that I guess people might typically do with a cheaper guitar. So in some ways maybe it's like a step further along than what you might end up with the Ibanez AZ-ES. This is a substantially heavier guitar, but obviously they would differ between models. I'm sure there's going to be ones that were lighter, and also Ibanez AZ-ES guitars that would be lighter as well, or heavier than that one is even. So I can only kind of look at what I've got here. I bought both of these guitars, and I think at the time I was quite impressed with the Sire, but I did have expectations that it should be decent because I've got the Sire bass, and that's a great guitar at any price really. The neck again is, I think, the highlight of this guitar. The Ibanez I was impressed with because some of the cheaper Ibanez, like Geo guitars that I played, I didn't necessarily think were great guitars at all. Whereas this is very, very playable, and I think it looks great. Again, so both of them, if you're going to do some more of that kind of crazy whammy bar abuse, I think I would have some tuning issues with them. But both keep their tune pretty well with your normal kind of bends and stuff. Other things to think about. Not really sure. We've got a 2-point trem on this, which in theory you could pull up as well. actually that's kind of a thing that is more likely to take you out of tune quicker, I think, than a vintage style trem. I don't know if this is your experience, but on these cheaper guitars I never really find it myself wanting to trust the tremolo arms too much anyway. I don't know if that's typical with cheaper guitars or not. You might want to get a tech to look at the nut. I think that is one of the key spots where things could be slipping in and out of tune. But there's just something, it's one of those things that can take time to get in tune or get stable and stuff. So neither of these guitars, these are basically exactly as they'd come out of the factory. I'd just say the Sire, I think, has that edge in terms of that quality feel, but you know, it's double the price. Which do you prefer sound wise? Which do you prefer look wise? I guess that's up to you to decide. The AZ-ES has a kind of smaller feel because it's got that PRS scale length. Other guitars to look at, maybe in this kind of price range, a Yamaha Pacifica. I think those are really good bang for buck guitars. They don't necessarily look as cool as the Ibanez in my opinion, but I think they play super well in general. Other things, there's the Harley Benton Fusion stuff, which has kind of even better appointments than the Sire. I think you get stainless steel frets on some of them, actual Goto hardware I think on some of them, and you know, roasted necks and flame necks and all that sort of stuff. So that Harley Benton range might be worth looking at. These are both made in Indonesia. I think there's a new brand on the block called Jet Guitars that are kind of in this price range as well. You know, that sort of stuff might be worth looking at. I've not tried a Jet guitar though, so I can't really say. But both quite cool instruments, I think. If I was going to be choosing one to actually take to a gig as a backup or something, the Sire I have actually taken out with that in mind. I've not had a chance to try the Ibanez in that context yet, but with both of them I wouldn't say the stability is there with the trems that you could get away with doing really crazy stuff. But I have seen on the Yamaha stuff that's got Wilkinson hardware, I think some of that stuff is actually pretty reliable in my experience. But yeah, those were kind of my thoughts on those two guitars. As honest as I can be about them, I think both of them have a decent neck join. Both of them play pretty well out of the box. I think both of them have a cool sound to them. This one has the hotter pickups. Both of them potentially will have some tuning stability issues as soon as you start to use that trem. This one has your bog standard kind of die-cast tuners. That one's got locking tuners, but I think, to be honest, the nut is where you get most of your tuning issues anyway, rather than whether the tuners lock or not, in my experience. But yeah, also this little, whatever that is called, input jack is quite a neat little design. As long as that doesn't break, I kind of prefer that. You've got less moving parts and less chance of needing to service that, so that's kind of cool. I don't really rate this these other switching options on the pickups. I think your standard 5-blade stuff is plenty enough on the Ibanez. This other stuff with the switch, the alt switch engaged, to me sounds a bit odd. But those are my thoughts. Let me know if you've had good or bad experiences with either guitar. I do like to hear from people that have tried either or, because I think it helps people to get a sense. So this one, about double the price of this one in the UK, and I think the neck would be what seals it for me to choose the Sire over it. Although I do think this one does look a little bit cooler, and that's part of what's important in it. Catch you in another video soon. Cheers!